Welcome to Connecting the Dots podcast, brought to you by The Collective. I am your host, Grace McNamara. Together, we look at business like a sports team. We'll connect the dots between every player in the team, the audience, and the essential plays that are often overlooked by leaders. With a strong gender-balanced focus, we'll bring together discussions from across many markets that connect women's health, purchasing powers, leadership strategies, and business growth. We'll be chatting with thought leaders, executives, and champions of modern business to uncover the stories of challenge, success, learning, and privilege, and what's coming down the track in our evolving world. Together, we'll connect strategies of best practice and celebrate the rising leaders ready to take us into the new era. Here we go.
Hello and welcome. Gav Baxter, thank you for joining me. This is a pleasure. I know you're in the heat in Dubai today. I'm in the heat in Ireland, surprisingly enough. Both of us sunburned, both of us were trying to survive the heat that we're not accustomed to naturally. Looking forward to the conversation. But let's just kick off straight in. You connect the dots for me. Where did you start to where you are today? Because you've got a very, very, very interesting career path. So talk us through it.
Thank you, Grace. I've actually had a fight with my team today about the aircon in this room, and I'm winning at the minute. So if I start sweating, it's because as I'm on this call, they're turning it down. So yes, thank you for this. And thank you for having me on the podcast. I've watched many of these and I really enjoy them. Let's connect the dots. So my career within the active leisure sector started with a company called British Military Fitness. I don't know if you remember British Military Fitness. I don't know if they were in Ireland, actually, because I know they were in the UK. They started off from London.
Yeah, I don't think so. I only know them from the UK. So I think you're right. It was only the UK.
Yeah, so I worked with them. So I was at university at the time, and I'd qualified as a gym instructor and everything. And I had previous experience with the military. And they were looking within Newcastle in particular, and I went in there as an instructor, and I was terrible, absolutely terrible. So I remember what you do with your interview process with British Military Fitness is you turn up and you take a class. So you turn up, you take part in a class, and then you take a class. And I was really, really bad at doing so. Running people around the park, trying to show off because I was really daft and running ahead of them and trying to get them to catch up and beasting them, as we'd say. But for somehow I managed to get the job with a lot of coaching in that place, and I had a mentor at the time, a guy called John Armstrong, and we worked together on that, and I started doing some personal training on the side. So I was kind of doing my university studies, doing British Military Fitness, doing some personal training, and then when I was leaving university, I came to this crossroads that most people come to, where I got offered this graduate scheme in a job that was nothing to do with what I studied, which was sports development with coaching. And it was something, I think it was marketing. There's some kind of like internship with this company that I've never heard of. And I sat with John and I said, we need to do something as a business because there's an opportunity here. And I actually sat down with the guys from British Military Fitness and said, are you going to employ me full time? Because it was like a part-time, pay by the hour type of job. They said they don't do that. So then I started my own business called Operation Fitness with John, and we went into it together. And we then ran, like most people did around the UK, which is what I think was a downfall of British Military Fitness. We ran them out of the area because we took all the clients because people followed the instructors, and we started our own business. That then expanded pretty quick. Then we had like 6 different sites that we were working from. We opened up a studio in Newcastle. So then we had the studio, did a hybrid of wide range of training, developed that business, took on some more staff. We actually got recognised by, I got recognised by Virgin Unite, and then I got the opportunity to meet Richard Branson for breakfast, which was incredibly impressive. And I actually got the best advice because as part of this kind of competition that we won, because we were impacting people that were suffering from mental health within the workplace, ex-military in particular, working with this company that had them, and they were supporting them in homes, and people that suffered from alcoholism or PTSD. And we had this vision where we knew that anyone that was in the military that had some kind of connection with fitness. So we brought them into our business. We brought them with supervised training as in how to deliver classes. And then we kind of integrated them back into society, where they were acting as like support coaches. And then sometimes they were leading a session and we were supporting them. And it was a really good initiative. We were picked up by the ITV media. We were on TV talking about this initiative and getting them back out there. And then that's what led to the Richard Branson thing. And then Richard Branson gave us one of their business mentors. And we were charging at the time in this studio, I think it was around £30 a month, because it was at the boom of like the budget gyms everywhere. So in my head at the time, quite inexperienced, was thinking we need to compete with budget gym prices. So we were charging around £30. And then one of the business advisors from the US told us you need to be quadrupling your cost of your service because the value that you're offering is far greater than the budget gyms in the region. I didn't do it, and it was probably the biggest mistake we ever did, naturally, because it's quite a scary thing to try and take that on. But what had happened in that process is I got a phone call from Saudi Arabia from a recruiter in Saudi, and they were interested in me going to work with the fire protection department, which was helping the firefighters increase their fitness levels and everything that's required for their service. And I decided to take the job because I was young, single, in a position where I was like, I've done my business now, I can keep the business on the side and I can go to Saudi. That never worked, obviously, but I tried to do that. I went to Saudi Arabia, started working in Saudi Arabia. The business, after I moved out of it and John moved out of it, fell within 5 months of us not being there, realising how important it was for instructors to be engaged and how people follow the instructors should learn a lesson from the BMF situation. So I went to Saudi Arabia and I worked for the fire protection department within Saudi Aramco with some brilliant guys from across the world that were there. And that's what kind of led, because I was there for about four and a bit years, that's what kind of led us into the educational route, because as part of the consultation, we were working on developing the firefighters' fitness levels, naturally, by programming and supporting that across the region. But there was also an initiative that if we qualified the firefighters to become instructors, because there was 52 different locations across Saudi Arabia with their qualifications, and then obviously teach other firefighters, and you're kind of building that ecosystem of instructors. And that worked really well, and that's what got me into that kind of understanding the vocational education aspect of the sector and how that operated. So then it opened doors with a company called Active IQ, which is the awarding body for the active leisure sector, or one of. And then I got a job with them with Active IQ. I came back to the UK, and then from working with Active IQ, I knew that there was an opportunity to export education internationally, because I saw how interested the Saudi workforce was with British qualifications and kind of vocational skills as well that they didn't really have in abundance at that time. So Active IQ then took them overseas and started working using event companies like the one that I'm at now, and engaging with the sector, understanding what the challenges were, and bringing in qualifications through training providers. So I led up a lot of the international strategy of Active IQ, there for 5 years, moved to a training provider as a chief commercial officer for the fitness group education. And again, took them from the UK, because they're one of the biggest providers in the UK overseas, and helped them move into the international space. And then I got a phone call from Dubai Active, which is where I am now. And I knew the team because of working through these different companies and exporting in the region. And they asked me if I was interested in coming over as a commercial director. And at first I was a bit like, I've just started a new job. I was only with the fitness group for 6 months. But then my wife, who I'd actually met in Saudi Arabia, reminded me how much we love the Middle East, and she was like, it's time to go back. So it was a great opportunity to come back over, move to Dubai, have a completely different role in terms of the sector that I was working with. It's still within the health and fitness sector, but working within a different part of it. And that's where I am now. I realised that was a very long introduction, so apologies.
Well, it's great because it just shows, the dots, it's never a linear line, right? Then the dots come from all different angles and they go in different markets. And I think everyone I speak to has this, you couldn't have planned out, you couldn't have sat back 15, 20 years ago and went, here's my career path, and followed the journey that you've taken, more than likely, between different markets and parts of the sector. So it's fascinating. So thanks for sharing that. Quick one for you then on the Dubai Active. Give us some more context of what this is and what do you want to achieve? Like, what's the future? What's the exciting, bit that gets you out of bed in the morning or keeps you awake at night? Depends on how you look at it.
Absolutely. Do you know, for me, and you'll probably know this about anyone that knows me will know this about me, I'm very aligned with my purpose and my values and all that type of stuff, and trying to have that impact. Like I'm not really turned by money or things like that. It's always been a bit, as long as it's got an outcome that impacts in a positive way, that's where I want to be. And with working in education, whether it be Aramco, Active IQ, the fitness group, I used to always imagine the end user, which is the person that completed the certification, that got the certificate. And I used to always have this image in my head of this person like going through a career path where they wanted to come into the health and fitness sector, because most people are actually transferring sectors. So they'll kind of get to a point and they'll come into the active leisure sector, whether it be through a personal trainer or a lifeguard or whatever pathway they have into it. And I always think about like how excited they are because they've got a passion for health and fitness, and then they want to get into the sector to be able to help other people do it, and the impact that has on them, and then obviously then go into the sector. And I know that we've got challenges with retention rates and things like that, which is a whole different conversation, but it's about that kind of feeling that people go through. And with Dubai Active, one of the big things that I really enjoyed from Dubai Active and the show is there is three major elements to the show. We call it Dubai Active, but it's actually Dubai Active Industry, and Dubai Muscle Show. Dubai Muscle Show is where it started because bodybuilding was it still is a really big sport within the Middle East. It's a fascinating culture that they've got around it. And I love the idea of someone walking into the show. There's a professional bodybuilding competition that goes on stage, and if they come to the show because they're engaged in that sector, being able to look at someone on stage and think, that's what I want to do next year, or motivate them to get into it, or motivate them to do a little bit more and push themselves a little bit more. The active side is where we have like our High Rocks 365, which is supported by one of our gym partners. I love the idea of people coming to spectating and watching High Rocks and then thinking, next year I want to take place in that. And then even on the industry side, and this is what I inspired to do as well, I love the idea of suppliers coming in, watching like the CEO forum or the X-Pro talks and thinking, I want to be on stage next year talking about my products and services and being able to support the sector. So I feel like we've got three different elements to the show, and it's kind of brought together from a different pull of each element of the show, and it's all under one roof because we know that the health and fitness and wellness space is all kind of connected anyway. We know that people that do High Rocks are also engaged with the supplement brands that are engaged with the bodybuilding brands, and they're kind of all interlinks, and the equipment brands are there as well. So and the vision of that is to kind of have more impact on individuals' participations, people that walk through the door, their motivations, their drivers, and kind of really support that on a mass scale and grow. And we generally do have conversations in our strategy meetings about that person that walks through the door. It's not always about the bottom line. Obviously, that's really important in my role as a commercial director, but it's always about that other aspect as well, and how are we really changing lives or supporting people, or how we're getting them motivated or getting them involved in the sector, and how does it drive through. That's why the team are really good at, we bring a lot of the talent into the show. When I say talent, I mean like influencers and well-known PTs and people that have got large communities as well. We bring them into the show because we want their communities to follow. We want everyone to come and see what the sector's all about on that bigger.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was there in February. There was a lot of pictures being taken with obviously local celebrities, and I was like, I don't know who these guys are at all, but they're clearly very buff. I did feel petite, I won't lie to you, and I'm 5'8", so it doesn't often I feel petite. It was lovely. It was fascinating though, because I didn't expect it. So I didn't expect it at all from the region, to be honest with you. But as you mentioned, like the muscle show side is significant, and it definitely is a phenomenally large following in the region. Yeah. Possibly larger there than it is in other sectors, or in other markets. So that was interesting, and it's good. And I hear you say active leisure, and this is interesting because we use the word the fitness sector slightly differently. It's really the same sector.
Yeah, it is. It's probably just my language of it, because we used to use active leisure a lot within Active IQ, because we used to talk about the scope of qualifications used to cover the active leisure, but essentially it is a fitness sector.
But you're like me though. You're kind of trying to expand this out. So physical activity as a broader, broader term, ultimately consistent that everybody needs to be physically active. And if there's locations to go to, whether community based or whether they're commercial entities or publicly funded, either or, it's in what you're looking to drive and to grow and to connect and support. Correct?
Exactly that. Because we always see stuff from industry data, and I think the UK is a bit of a joke now, isn't it? Where it's like the 85%, like they're talking about the 85% inactive population. But I think we all know that the way that it's kind of scoped out now is that data is taken from people that are active members of the gym. Unless I'm wrong, unless someone will correct me on this, but that's taken from people that are members of a gym. So there's penetration rates between some kind of entity that they're part of. But that scope now of active leisure is so much wider. The amount of people that potentially are working out at home or in communities and different different activities that are taking part in, but all equals. We're all trying to achieve the same thing, isn't it? It's getting more people involved in that space.
We have a big opportunity, no matter what part of the sector you sit in, where physical activity, regardless whether it's healthcare or fitness or apps or tech or health tech or med tech, it all overlaps in some shape or form, making sure that we get a more active society. So yeah, you've got a big task. You haven't set a low bar, Gav, so fair play to you. Question for you on the gender aspect, because obviously the region has a very different approach, obviously Saudi, and you're working for clarity as well, the UAE and Saudi and other countries. Can you clarify that for me as well?
We are very much so. The Dubai show has been going. This will be the 9th edition for the Dubai show. It's kind of expanded out from the Muscle show. It was started by 3 entrepreneurs in the region. It then got acquired by a large Italian group that does events all over the world. So the Dubai show is now kind of expanded into a huge event that is very much more international. So we have brands all over the world that are exhibiting, that are involved in the show. We have speakers coming from all over the world. So that is very much our international flagship. The Saudi event started off last year as the very first event in Saudi Arabia. That is quickly gaining so much traction, where that's doubling in size, or more than doubling in size, for the next edition because of the appetite within Saudi Arabia. But it still will be, there'll be a lot of international suppliers there, but I feel like Saudi will develop into more of a localized event, as in GCC local. Dubai is always going to be the international because it attracts at the minute, and Saudi Arabia will certainly change that in the coming years, and already is starting to change that attraction from all over the world. But Dubai is very much seen as that kind of place to be for a lot of people coming into the Middle East, and
and the time of the year, they're quite different, right? So Saudi's around the February timeframe, and Dubai is later in the year.
October, yeah.
It gives people options. If you can travel to one, you can travel to the other, or both, considering their different times of the year. And then going back to the gender aspect, because that's a huge factor, obviously with Saudi Arabia in particular. What does it mean for you when you're planning events, or when you're thinking about how do you attract an audience that's diverse, or talk to the business opportunities that exist in the market? It's quite a nuanced area.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia is a very interesting market for me personally, because when I first went to Saudi, it was 2015, and I always remember going into the fire department, and the whole fire frontline force was all male, so it was 1,500 firefighters were all male, and I went into the support office for the first time, and they had a very small female number of employees that were there. And I remember, I always remember going up to the office of one of the female leaders that was there and put my hand out to shake her hand. And obviously this is my first time in Saudi Arabia. And one of these Saudi men kind of like slapped my hand down type of thing. And he's like, you don't do that. And I realized, like, back then as well, it was very, very conservative, reserved. Like, so there was certain places I wasn't allowed to go to. And even now, I know they've still got male-female divide. There were certain times of the day I wasn't allowed to go to the mall. And it was like, it was very much a divide. And then the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, came through and really started to change things when he came into power. And it's around the same time, 2015, 2016, things started to change so quickly in the other direction, where there was a lot of support for females getting into businesses, being able to travel on their own, because there was a lot of restrictions previously. I met my wife, she's from Sheffield. I met her in Saudi Arabia, and she was allowed to drive as well, which wasn't a thing as well, if you remember, like women weren't allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. So there's so much change that was going on. But now I feel like when I go to Saudi Arabia, I don't feel like there's a lot more female leaders in our sector than there is within like the UAE. When I look at like senior leaders within the sector, I feel like they've done such a outstanding job of bringing in and supporting more and more kind of females to get into positions of leadership. It's only having a positive impact, and I can't see now. It's a very different. It's hard to
really
explain,
different. I know, I'm with you on that one. I think I said this as well back at the end of February when I was coming home. It's a place you have to go. You have to go see it, talk with the locals, and get a better sense. It's hard to describe otherwise. Because, we come from a obviously different culture completely. And I think what's interesting, you said there, all the females I met, as well as the male leaders, really well qualified. Like they're all coming from, depth of knowledge in whatever sector or expertise with it. So education is high.
Yes. They had this program in Saudi. I don't know the years, you might have to fact check me on the years, but they did send so many Saudis out of Kingdom through the government incentive to go and go qualify in the UK, the US, European countries, and bringing that knowledge back in and then degrees and that kind of new perspectives back into the region has done the kingdom so much good, because you see so many young leaders in Saudi Arabia as well who are highly competent, highly skilled, and it's having that positive impact in that area.
Yeah. And as you said, they've left the country, so they're coming back with international perspective and international experiences that they can go, we like this, we don't like that. We can pick and choose the pros and cons, considering that there's no perfect system. I was very, very, very impressed everyone I met, to be fair, in Saudi in relation to the experience. As I mentioned, the competence that is coming from the angle of, we need to create a business, we need to create opportunities for the society to go forward. And fair play to, the 2030 vision. It's very clearly articulated, it's very clearly strategized, and everyone's on board. And I found that refreshing, like very refreshing from a public policy perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It is amazing how much we've recruited in Saudi Arabia for our event. We've recruited a Saudi national from Jeddah, and there's three major places in Saudi. You've got Jeddah, Riyadh, Dammam. I say major places. There's many places, but the things that international people know the most is Jeddah, Dammam, Riyadh. And when I lived in Saudi, Jeddah was always known as being a bit more open, lax, but it was still quite conservative from like a female perspective. Weren't allowed to travel still, and mixed with men socially and things like this. And when we recruited for our Saudi lead, a lady called Sama, Saudi national from Jeddah. I couldn't believe like the changes where 5 years ago she wouldn't be allowed to like have a private conversation with myself in a coffee shop and things like this, and now it's just completely switched. And the competency level of Sama is through the roof. Like, it's unbelievable, like how good she is as an employee, and not just as a Saudi, just in terms of like working in events and the space that she's worked in. What we can learn from her is fascinating. But it's the idea that you were saying about the 2030 vision. It's like every single person in that kingdom who's a Saudi national knows exactly, especially in the professional sense, know exactly what the 2030 vision is, know exactly where they're going. And it's just unbelievably clear, and everyone's just talking to that same line. It's just being able to change a culture of a country, like within however many years, 10 years. It's unbelievable. It's honestly, there's nothing on this scale.
There's nothing on this scale. I agree with you. I think we're going to sit back in 10 years time and talk about Saudi. It's just going to be a completely different country and a completely different culture. I mean, hopefully they've retained the cultural aspects that they want to retain, right? But there's definitely going to be a lot more expats there for business and for many reasons. You've seen the change in UAE as well. So give us some of the context there, because as I kind of mentioned, I've been in Dubai a couple of times. Like, the heat alone, clearly I'm not designed for that. But it is a fascinating culture, but very different again, because it's mainly, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, mainly expats more than Emiratis. So give us some context there, again, from a person who grew up in the UK, living in Dubai now, and has been back and forth and working in the region for quite a number of years. Give us some context for those of us that don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dubai, you're right. It's very different, but it's, again, similar to Saudi Arabia. It's got such strong leadership and vision in terms of exactly where they want to go. And there's so many documentaries out there when you can see the infrastructure of Dubai and how quickly that's developed. And as a result, that's obviously attracted a lot of tourism. It's an incredibly easy place to do business, in my opinion, because it doesn't take long at all to establish your organisation, to apply for like your trade licenses and everything like this, to get property and to rent stuff. I'll give you an, like on a personal level, I flew out to Dubai on the 26th of February. I think it was by the 2nd of March. It was incredible. It must have been like a week, if that. I managed to have my Emirati ID. I managed to have a property set up with all my bills and payments and open a bank account, and everything was done like that. And it just makes it so easy, because this is a place where people come and do business. So there's so much support to do so. You're absolutely right. It's a large expat community, but it's a great melting pot of different nationalities from all over the world that are working together. Shared goals. It's very much the difference I will see, and this is a personal perspective, just because my experience in both territories. I feel like Dubai, people are here to do business, and they're very much like focused on business first, and then your social and everything else comes second. Saudi is a very nurturing country. Like, it's very. I always found that there were a lot more kind of shways, I'd say, a lot more relaxed, a lot more kind of like family orientated first. It's just the cultures that they've got. They are very serious about business, don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not denying that. And they do make decisions and move forward. But it feels a lot more relaxed. Dubai is a bit like any kind of major city where everyone is 100 miles an hour because they're all trying to get somewhere. But Saudi is a lot more like kind of, we will get there, but in the meantime, let's enjoy some capsa and some shisha and relax and drink tea, and then we'll talk about it on the way. So it's very different. I think it's because you're right. Dubai is driven a lot from expat communities that come in here, starting businesses, driving that, making the most of it. And Saudi is definitely driven by Saudi nationals developing their business and moving things forward.
That's a really good point that you made there about being able to register a business in the region, in the UAE, very quickly and easily. So that's really good information. Is that the same right now in Saudi, or is it yet to be? It's obviously taking a little bit longer in Saudi, but they're going to make it more efficient, do you think? Is it going to be as quick?
Yeah, I think within Saudi Arabia, they've certainly came a long way in terms of how it used to be, because you used to have local partners with, and you used to have that in the UAE as well, sorry. So you used to have a local partner, and that's how you do business. But in Saudi Arabia, they're changing the process where you can go in as a 100% entity. You just have to make sure that you've got workforce that is relevant to the business as well. So you have to have a percentage of your workforce. So for us, we set up a business. I say we, wasn't me, it was before I joined the business, but they set up a business in Saudi Arabia, went through the trade license, everything like that. I don't think it was much more complicated, other than the fact of bank accounts and things like that were very much physical, signing for paperwork. And then we had to employ a Saudi national from day one for that business to then be approved to go through. I don't think there's too much, because there is so many people that come to the region. Both territories are making it as easy as possible for people to get to where they need to be. As long as they're adding the value that they want, they'll be there to support.
That's great to know, because it's obviously lots of businesses looking at the Middle East and trying to figure out where do they set up, how do they do it, and so on. So it's good information. And I've no doubt you're going to have some follow-ups from people across the world going, hold on a second, Gav, where do I start this process? But I do know there's a load of really good people as well in the region that are set up to support international businesses coming into the region. So we can possibly tag some of those guys as well on the podcast when it goes live. Because as you said, both countries are actively welcoming business to the region in order to add value to citizens. So it's a welcoming area, which is good to know.
Absolutely.
Gav, when you look at, we talked about previously as well, the differences obviously of gender and leadership in there. And you've talked about previously before about working with lots of great leaders across your career in many, many countries. Give us some context there. And, as a male that's gone through the ranks, what's different? Is there anything different? What do you see the future being different to the past? Give us some of your context, because again, you've got a great diverse background.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this to you before, I have been very fortunate, especially I've had really strong female leadership within my career. And I've been really fortunate to learn in a very different way. So I think within the supply network, I feel like you'll find a lot more female leaders within our sector than you probably will in the operators. And obviously, I haven't spent much time on the operator side as that side, so it's always been within the supply side. But I've always felt like I've not been as conscious of inequality across male and female leadership because of the paths that I've took in this region. But I really feel like it's really helped nurture my side and the way that I am as a leader. And I have just finished 4 years of studying senior leadership and my MBA.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Literally just finished this weekend, which I'm very happy about.
Gives you back some time in your calendar. Excellent.
So I am incredibly passionate about senior leadership on a personal level, and I think that one of the biggest takeaways I had from that is about people speaking with a higher purpose, and not to kind of brush the genders, but I've always found that the female leads that I've had, they've always spoke to that language about it's not just about making as much money as quickly as possible, because the money will always come and there's always free areas of it. And I feel like I've been nurtured a little bit in that way, which has supported me. So can I talk directly to the people that I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jenny Patrickson, who's the MD of Active IQ, when I was working with Active IQ, Jenny has a very unique leadership style. That was very much about giving me as much space as possible to do what I wanted to do. And if I failed, she was very much there to be like, right, let's start again, let's pick up and let's go back to it. So she was very much there as a mentor and as a guide, to kind of support that journey through, very supportive of personal development and things like that. And I think like a lot of her style is what we probably need a lot more of in the sector, because I've seen it in different cases. I won't give negative examples, but I have seen it where people don't let people fail or don't let people try things because the perception that they'll fail and they want to pull them back. And Jenny was very much like that, very much supportive of my crazy, wild ideas. I suffer from dyslexia, and I know that sometimes the way I think, I say suffer, I shouldn't say suffer because I don't suffer from it, but I do know that it gives me a bit of a competitive advantage sometimes because I like to simplify things and take things in a different way. Jenny was always there to just kind of support that and just go on, Gav, you go try that. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to be like, I told you so. I'm going to be like, right, how can we try that again and try it in a different way? And that was really impactful on my last 8-year jump. I think about 8 years it's been since I've known Jenny.
Right, yeah. Excellent. Yeah, she's amazing. Good shout out. Good shout out. Who are the others?
So I've never worked directly. You know, I'm going to say a name because I think she's the one that introduced me and you. So Rachel Young, naturally. I've never worked directly with Rachel Young, but I've always known her in the sector and I've always been around mainly at events, right? And I always felt that like Rachel in particular, the reason it's Rachel, and I don't know a single person has disagreed with like Rachel being probably the most connected person in the sector, especially across Europe and the Middle East. She's never ever shied away from like asking questions or wanting to learn more, and that's always a trait that people need to see a lot more, I think, because there's never an ego about Rachel Young. There's always a kind of like, well, what's next? And she's really, really good at asking the right questions. I remember one time at Dubai Active, when I was with Active IQ, I was sat having a coffee and I was watching Rachel Young and Dave Wright work their stand and stopping and talking to people, and I was so amazed at like how they could just talk to anyone with any subject and be able to like bring them around. I was like, that level of soft skills is unbelievable, and I have no doubt that Rachel's probably learned from Dave, and Dave's learned from Rachel, and everyone else that's in that MyZone ecosystem. But I have no doubt that it's because of her personality, the eagerness to constantly learn and develop. She's literally just texted me saying she's finished a leadership course or a program that she's away. So you know this, like, so it's that kind of like motivation to keep learning and keep driving, no matter what position you get to or whatever. So that's some. I admire that a lot.
Yeah, she's amazing, and no agenda, no ego, but constantly curious. Agreed. She's a fantastic professional and phenomenally well connected. So yeah, I completely agree with that one. And she did connect us a couple of months back, so she is the reason why we're here today.
That's it. Yeah, I do remember. I think I get a message off her like every 2 weeks saying, "You need to meet this person," or "You need to meet this person." She is absolutely brilliant at that.
Right.
At doing that. And then it would be wrong because one of the main reasons I took this job was because as I was exhibiting at the show, I got to know Tom Rees and Rachel Chatham, or Rachel Rogers at the time. She's now married. And I got to know these two guys, and I absolutely loved their personality and their passion to drive things forward and drive the sector forward, and the fact that you could always work hard with them and then have a beer with them afterwards. And that was the major driver for when they rang me up to come do this job. I knew that they had created a culture within this business that was not one to miss type of thing. I knew that everyone in this business was going to be on that level, really passionate people, really kind of go-getters and motivating each other to kind of make it happen. And I'm absolutely right, because every single person in this business is built that way. Like, we have team meetings that last ages sometimes because everyone is so passionate about their subject and they want to drive that forward. But Rachel in particular, Rachel Chatham, she is the managing director of Dubai Active, and she is such a resilient leader. The last 3 shows she's been pregnant, and she was telling me a story. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. Even the last show, she was showing up, leading the team, and then going being sick in the toilet because she was pregnant that morning sickness. And she's such a resilient leader where she never lets anything. You never see if anything phases her type of thing. She's got that kind of personality that's there, and that's exactly what drove this business forward. So I'm very fortunate as well to be like, again, moving from company to company and seeing these strong leaders. Very fortunate as well to see Rachel.
Great shout outs there. Like, really great shout outs. And think you're probably like me, you like working with people that are different and better, and you learn all the time. So it's a very conscious, intentional career strategy of working with people who are great and who are going to inspire you, but also give you autonomy, as you mentioned there at the start, to make mistakes. And I feel like you're right. Sometimes we might get cotton wool, as we say in Ireland, where it's like you're minded too much. And if you can't explore, make mistakes, learn from them, you're not going to end up having a very successful career. You need to be making mistakes and just finding out what's working, what doesn't work, and the pros and cons. It has to be active. So well done. Yeah. What's the course you finished? You said you did 4 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I did. I did my level 7 senior leadership program, and then I did a postgraduate diploma in level 7 senior leadership, and then I've just done like the top up MBA bit as well. So it was like, I'm actually really eager to do my DBA because I feel like I've got a bit of a point to prove to the world because I wasn't bad at school, but I was one of them kids who I didn't know I was dyslexic at school. So I was 100% attendance, put everything into my school. I excelled at sport because I was doing the same effort in sport and it helped me exceed. But I was 100% attendance, and then I'd be getting like average grades. I was getting like C's and D's and 1B, I think it was PE. And then I was like, then when I went to university, one of my academics said to me, I think you're dyslexic. And I went and did the test, and I was like, really
you didn't know until university.
I didn't know until university, but then I really excelled at like that kind of critical thinking. So my dissertation for my undergrad was that came out with a first. I got 2-1 overall, which I was incredibly proud of, being dyslexic and not known until it was the final year of university as well, by the way, because it was my guidance student for dissertation.
Oh wow!
So then I've always had a bit of a point to prove, and then when I've been doing this leadership program, and it's obviously going back into academia, and it's trying to talk like an academic. I came out with really high grades because I'm really passionate about the subject, but then put the effort in. So what would probably take a normal person like a day to write, it'd probably take me 2 days to write because it takes me so much time to go through it. So I feel like my next task is definitely to do my DBA, do my doctorate, and just have a bit of a point to prove to myself really that I can do it.
I'm with you on that one. I think so. Dr. Gav is on the plan.
There we go.
Track.
Just 7 years away, or however long it takes.
You'll get there. But you've got time. Careers aren't going anywhere. We're living in a world of continuous development. So I'm with you. Yeah. But I think it's really important to note, like, there's 2 factors there, right? One is, again, adversity creates like a drive or a hunger. I feel like that it's hard to learn if you're minded too much. So, and then also a different way of thinking. We talk about the different leaders and diversity of thought in a room when you're thinking of a problem to solve. Diversity of thought is important, and having people who have, dyslexia and neurodivergence, that's great. It just helps you think different when not everyone's been on that same journey or that same experience. You need that to solve a problem, especially if it's a complex one that hasn't been solved before and it's in a new market or a new problem or so on. So I can see how it adds value to you as a leader.
Yeah, I really do embrace it now, because at first I used to think I was so stupid in it. Like if I was in a boardroom and I used to think of something that I felt was so simple that people were missing, I was thinking it must be too simple that I'm just not here to say anything. And then actually, as I got a lot more confident in the workplace and really work on that, I realised that we're missing it because people were viewing the problem from a different perspective, and my mind was just trying to simplify it as quickly as possible so I could understand it. And then, yeah, it really helped.
Surprising in one way, but not thankfully anymore. I mean, you got diagnosed with dyslexia in, you said, last year of university. We've got better processes now, so kids are getting diagnosed with everything a lot earlier. But I have this bugbear of the education system not always catering for anything outside of the norm, what's considered normal. There's a very small bandwidth in there, and so teachers are stretched, schools are stretched. So if you're any bit different, whether you've got a high IQ or a low IQ or a condition that relates in terms of thinking different, you can be lost in the mix sometimes. It's one of those systems I'd love to shake, but I don't know how to fix it. I just know that.
It really is the golden question, isn't it? Because I agree with you. Like, obviously, I really struggle because I feel like anything before university, it's just a memory game. It's like you get given information, digest that information. You're not thinking critically in most cases, and then it's just about being able to give that information back out. And yeah, I get it. That's why I'm a big fan of self-development at that point when you're a bit older. I'm a big fan of vocational training as well, because it gives hands-on skills for a lot of people that need it. But you're absolutely right. There's a big engine to fix there, and I don't want to ever tackle it or
I don't
want
know how
to.
to tackle it. I just need to, at least if we can talk about it, that it doesn't work for everybody. Because I remember back, I'd say I was 14, give or take, and I went to a Catholic school in Ireland. It was all girls. It was awful. And I remember this nun telling me that, yeah, I was going to be nothing and go nowhere because I wouldn't listen. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is great. This is great career counseling advice. And obviously, I sit here now with multiple degrees and masters going, sorry, if I met her today, I'd be like strangling her, but of course I won't. So the system needs to think that there's more ways of looking at it, and there's more people that need different solutions. So a bit of diversity of options wouldn't go astray in education. But anyway, we won't solve that today. It's a whole other podcast, Gav.
I know, it really is. It really is.
Now, you've moved your family to Dubai.
Yes.
Kids and all. Give us a little rundown there, because your kids are obviously going to school in Dubai now. Or too young?
Yeah. Well, my daughter is 16 months now, and she's gone through another sleep regression, which I feel like has been going on for 16 months. So apologies if you see bags in my eyes. But yeah, one of the major drivers, and I don't want to sound like one of them people on TikTok that talks about the UK or Ireland, but one of the major drivers for me was safety. It was the kind of overall well-being, the active sector, the active living aspect of it as well. Because I feel like I walk everywhere, because I feel safer to do so, and like everything is a bit more open like that. There's a lot of really good healthcare systems here, as it's private healthcare, so you can literally see a doctor. You can phone a doctor, which I have done, and had an appointment within the hour to go see them in the thing. There's a lot of benefits that support like your overall lifestyle here. And for my daughter, I was really worried at first, because when she first came, I moved to the marina in Dubai. So some people might recognize what that is. It's basically a community in Dubai. And it was like she was really struggling with sleep. So it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. We were walking around the marina trying to get her to sleep in a cot. And I was thinking, is this too hot? Is this really a bad place? But then the actual development of my daughter, because at the point when she came, she couldn't walk, she was hardly talking, and now within the space of like 3 months, she's like now fully walking, running all over the place. And it's probably the nursery that we're taking her to as well. But it's been a really good lifestyle, and like every weekend we're out going for coffee shops, like going to do some activities. There's loads of things to do for kids here. It's just, I can't explain it, but it's a really nice place to live for a family.
Have you other lessons? I'm thinking of people that are outside of Dubai, Saudi, that are thinking of moving either themselves, their family, their business, or all of the above to the region. Any lessons that you want to share? Because obviously you've done it, so you've been there, done that.
One of the hardest things about it, just so we're not overlooking it, is it's expensive, and it's expensive up front, because Dubai in particular is incredibly good at extracting money in year payments. So like you pay for your rent up front, so you normally pay like 12 months up front of your rent. You'll pay for your gym membership up front. Like you'll be paying for everything up front, right? So don't discount that element when you're coming here. And there is ways around it now, and things are actually getting better at doing so. There's a lot of people that will take monthly payments and things like that, but you just have to shop around with that. I remember when I moved out here, I set up the apartment. My wife and my daughter followed me 2 weeks after, I think. So I wanted to go first, make sure everything was comfortable and set up. And I remember my wife meeting us in a restaurant, and she was like, it looks like you're back in Saudi again. I said, what do you mean? She said, you're so relaxed, like your shoulders are dropped, you sat back, like, you're not like, you're just chilling. And I can't explain that atmosphere, but it doesn't feel like it's as, like you're not looking over your shoulder. You can leave your phone anywhere on the table. You can get up, move around. You can go play with the kids. It feels like a real community on a large scale, and it feels like there's a bubble of like trust, and it just feels a little bit different. So in terms of advice for people coming out here, I highly recommend it if that's an issue and where they are at the minute, because it was where we lived in the north of England. There was a lot of violence, provoked violence, and drugs and things like this that are just not right. And then you come here and it's like zero tolerance. You're in a very safe place because of that zero tolerance, because people don't step out of line, because when they do, there's a severe punishment for it. But yeah, it's just a really nice environment, and it's very community led. And another thing, sorry, to add on, since I've been here, like I said earlier about like the idea of people here to do business, there's so many opportunities because I've had conversations with coffees, getting introduced to other people. Like your network starts to open up pretty quick because it's quite a small place, especially within in our sector, the fitness sector. You start meeting people quickly because they're easier, more accessible to get to. And then people are always talking about different business ideas and how to take things. And it's that kind of environment where people are there to support and grow and develop and they want to go at the same time. So that wasn't as concise as I wanted it to be, but I think hopefully you understand the picture.
And thank you for sharing as well, because as you said, there's lots of people listening that are thinking, will I move? Should I move? What's the barrier? So that's been really useful, actually. And knowing that cost aspect up front is a big decision factor. So I think that's important. Yeah. And the community is huge. I think you're right. I mean, the severe punishment of crime, I think that's a massive pro, in my opinion. And like I lived in China for a while, and same story there. The crime rate was, from my perspective, I never felt safer because the crime was punished so severely. It helped me feel an awful lot safer. So I can see the pros with that for sure. So last one, Gav, you called out a number of leaders already. Is there anyone else you want to call out as part of a spotlight? Because you've got some great people on your team. And then lastly, just in terms of the call to action, I'm going to see you hopefully at the show in October. In Dubai, when it's a little bit cooler, I won't have to worry as much about the sunburn. But you're actively inviting businesses as well right now to get involved in the show, as well as actually inviting, whether you're professional or whether you're just interested in being in the industry from coming in or new or whatever, to come attend, join, see it, feel it, meet, connect, and learn all about it. So that's actively been happening right now for October. But anything else you want to shout out? Because this has been great, and I really can't wait to see you guys again in Dubai this time.
Yes, I'm very excited to see you here as well. And do you know, we are planning a few different activities for our Dubai show as well around the show because it's becoming so big. Having good problems at the minute where the floor plan is almost sold out. I think it's like 85% sold out, if not 90%. And we're having conversations now where brands want to get involved, but we're actually finding it hard to place them, and it's like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. I'm new to this sector, so I'm sure people that work in events are very comfortable with this, and my team certainly are. But it's a good problem to have at the minute. But as a result, we're also building in more events around the show. So we're looking at having a paddle competition as well, because paddle is huge everywhere, but it's particularly huge in Dubai at the minute. So we want to put that in, and you're very much invited to come along to that. We'll be having a press conference because we've actually got some really exciting news updates to give about our company, which I can't share for now, but that'll be in October. We're going to be having a networking party as well. We used to have networking drinks, but we're looking to bring in a party in on the Friday night for all the exhibitors and for the key stakeholders and the buyers and the CEOs. We're bringing in IC reps as well, and their educational summit is going to be coming to Dubai, talking about educational standards that they're developing. There's obviously a bias from my background, but I want a platform for that. So it's going to be a very, very exciting show. So yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch, reach out. And in terms of other people I want to shout out, I'm a big fan, naturally, of like people like Simon Sinek and people that are, they're in that leadership space, the motivational leadership space. And there's one of the big quotes where it's like, the only purpose of leaders is to create leaders. And I absolutely love to see that with people that I don't directly manage and see that that's their ethos. So Lisa Skelton, who works in Active IQs, took on head of business development for Active IQ. I know from speaking to other people that she's doing a really good job at developing other people that she's managing. And I absolutely love to see that go on. Within my team, I've got Tilly Westall, and I've got Lisa Jenkins, and I've got Sama Osama. All three of them are absolutely brilliant, inspires and leaders and motivating people that they're working with, and they're really starting to drive their passion out into the communities that we're working on. So yeah, do you know, there's probably a list of many people that I could go through, especially female leaders in particular, that I could go through. But I'll be here all day because there's many people that I've met in the career.
Great shout outs there. And I love that the one purpose of a leader is to create more leaders. So I think that's the bombshell to end the podcast on, Gav. Thank you so much.
There we go. Credit Simon Sinek, because that's not my quote.
We'll take it. Simon Sinek, also a fantastic leader. So, Gav, thank you so much. An absolute pleasure. A lot going on in the region. You're an expert and a local that's really driving business and change and structure there. So well done. And yeah, as I said, October, here we come.
Excellent. Thank you, Grace. Thanks for having me. And I can't wait to see you again.
Thanks for tuning in to Connecting the Dots. If today sparked a new idea, helped shift your thinking, or gave you something to take forward, share it, rate the show, or drop us a message. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation. Until then, keep connecting the dots that matter.